Collecting and gaming are often two sides of the same coin. But if we had to flip that coin, which side would it land on for me? And it would probably land a bit like this. It's difficult to distinguish. I know a lot of people that are gamers are collectors, and then those who are collectors are often gamers as well. I mean, it is literally the same coin. However, there are some nuances. Some collectors can collect a whole bunch of games that they know they might not ever play, and they will get some enjoyment out of that. And then there are gamers that will only play games and never experience other games because they don't want to collect or purchase them, which is totally fine. There is nothing wrong with either way. However, with me, I sort of got to the point where I've decided on a very specific set of rules and ideals that I want to collect towards in terms of my game specifically, not in terms of everything else. We obviously have the controllers behind me, and I love different system variants and things like that, so I haven't had the chance to go down that rabbit hole yet, thankfully. But I do like collector's editions, I do like memorabilia and things like that. But for games specifically, I've sort of sorted out in my mind what I specifically want to do. So when I collect, I have a very specific rule or a very specific pattern that I want to follow, and the main rule is I'm collecting a game that I want to play. If it is a game that I have no interest in playing or haven't had any interest of playing and don't ever plan on playing, it shouldn't be in my collection. Then there are other circumstances where I have collected the same game 3 times and I don't know which version to keep and what to do with those 3 versions. But in the video I want to discuss that, and I want your help in the end. So let's first hop into obviously what we're doing at the moment on the channel. And if you have followed the channel very diligently and very how do I put it, like you are very invested in this channel, and in which case I am very thankful to you. Thank you so much for always following the journey. You know that we have the Astrobot video game reference list that we're following and that we're collecting at the moment, and that is kind of taking precedent over everything else at the moment. That is the games that I am focused on collecting, focused on playing at the moment. So that's kind of the reason we did the Sly Cooper Platinum. There are the games that I'm playing at the moment. The main game that I'm playing at the moment is I've gotten back into Baldur's Gate 3. I've recently played Blueprints with my partner. She absolutely loves it, and we have almost figured everything out. There's still quite a few things to get through. If you play the game, you know what I mean. Once you finish the game, you're not actually finished. It's similar to Hades and Returnal in that regard, because they're both roguelites. But I'm digressing. It is a fantastic game, and if you haven't checked it out, make sure you do. But there are other games that I am sort of avoiding because while I do want to play them, other games are taking precedent. So Clair Obscure Expedition 33 looks spectacular. It looks like everything that I would want in a video game. However, for the time being, specifically with how many games I do have on the backlog and currently playing at the same time, I'm kind of letting it go by because it's not a main priority for me. It's not something that's happening that is directly referenced in Astrobot. It's not something that I need to play immediately. However, as much as I am saying this, there is probably going to be a point of time where I need to purchase the game, because I think the physical release run is very limited, and as a physical collector, it is a game that I will eventually want to have in the collection, but it's not a main priority at the moment. So aside from the Astrobot reference list, what are my collecting goals? What are the things that I am specifically trying to do and target? Well, if we swipe across here, you will see that I have a list that goes from PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and even the portable devices PSP and PS Vita. So these lists include games that I've already collected and games that I want to collect. The trick here is I have limited myself to 100 games per system. The portables, I haven't quite figured out what I'm doing with them in terms of the quantity of games, probably around 50, I'm not entirely sure, but there are some situations where the same game might be available in a better way to play portably, or not portably, in a different way. So for example, the God of War games on PSP, I have them on PS3 as well, I have them on PSP as well, so both sets, so PSP and PS3. So I have 2 sets of the same game. Do I really want to keep both sets? That is a more difficult question to answer, because one is portable and one is sitting at home on the couch. So these types of nuances that I do want to sort of figure out in my own head, and if you guys have any advice, please make sure you share it, because I am stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to deciding on those type of things. But let's go through this list, and I want to show you some of the problems that I am running into recently, specifically with the Astrobot reference video. So all these Astrobot references are games that I have always heard a lot of good things about, and I definitely actually want to play. So it isn't games that I'm just going to put in the collection and just leave there because, okay, I've got every game that Astrobot has ever spoken about. I do eventually want to play all these games. There are games that are actually quite interesting to me. I mean, a lot of them are some that I have a lot of nostalgia towards in any case, and then there are some that I have just never tried because I've never gotten around to it. For example, Death Stranding, never got around to it. Definitely a game that I want to put in the collection. Croc, I have a lot of nostalgia for, but I never actually played it on a PlayStation system. Obviously, we've now recently got Croc remastered, so Croc got a new update, and that is incredible. But I think I want to kind of collect the PS1 version of the game. Maybe I'll play the PS5 version digitally. All these logistics and semantics don't matter too much in terms of what I'm going to play when I do get around to playing them. However, I do at least want to have the physical copy in the library, if that makes sense. Here's where the problem comes in. Because I have limited myself to 100 games per system, so for PS1 I have 100 titles that I want to collect and get. I have a lot of space on PS1. I've only got 68 games, so obviously the top row doesn't count. So I've only got 68 games here that I have in the collection that I want to add. Then with the PS1, with the Astrobot reference video, I can add in the rest of those games. No problem, it's not going to overlap. But PS2 being my first console and the console that I have a lot of nostalgia towards and a console that I love a lot, I'm already on 94. Add in the Astrobot videos, or Astrobot references, I'm sitting at about I think maybe about 110, 120, which obviously doesn't sound like that bad if you're a massive collector and you collect all these games. However, for my very specific wants and needs, there's going to have to be a little bit of purging and releasing of titles that maybe don't fill me with so much joy. Luckily, there are certain things that we can do, and certain things that I have come across that have allowed me to come to terms with doing this. One of these things is multiple releases or multiple versions of the same game. So if we look here, we have these 3 Sly Cooper games. Sly Cooper 2 is 680. That's the last time I price checked this, and that could have been like 2 years ago, so they could be more expensive. Sly 3 is basically 900 Rand, and the first Sly is about 750. So if we put all those together, we're looking at about 2,000 Rand. However, Sony also released a Sly Cooper collection on PlayStation 3. All 3 games, 1 disc, so it only takes up 1 space on PlayStation 3. And you'd probably get it for a lot cheaper than what you would pay for all 3 of the PS2 games. Now, I know the PS2 games look fantastic. If you've looked at the artwork on the front of the PlayStation 2 versions of these games, you know that they are some of the best artwork that has ever been put on cases. However, at some point you do have to come to terms with owning multiple copies of the same title might not be the correct way to collect, especially when you're limiting yourself like I am. So with that in mind, I'm almost ready to just take all 3 of those games off the PS2 list and put them all just in that Sly Cooper collection. Then comes down to another thing that I've recently discovered. Another one is obviously God of War. I have 3 versions of this. So I've God of War 2 and 1 on PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, I have them on PS Vita, and I have them on PS3. So what do I do then? Well, and as sad and as unfortunate it is, I think it's time to consider maybe moving on the PS2 versions and keeping the PS3 versions, because I'm also a trophy hunter, and having the ability to collect trophies on some of these fantastic old games kind of makes them a little bit more valuable than having the PS2 copies, even though the PS2 copies look spectacular. I mean, if you look in here, if we take this out, at the back of the manual, it's the PSP version of God of War coming soon. At this point, I don't even think we knew what the PSP version was going to be called. It's just all these little extras that kind of make these, kind of makes you as a collector enjoy these discs and things a bit more. However, I don't know if that's going to give me enough joy as much as just playing the game and owning at least 1 copy. But what about like portable versus home system? So obviously these are portable versions of those games, and then I have the PS3 versions. In that case, I do think I'm just going to keep one of each type. So I'm going to keep one portable version and one home system version. I hope that makes sense. Other collecting goals that I have, there is only one subset that I am particularly interested in. If you don't know, I actually helped Retro Ghetto a couple months ago. I got the last PlayStation 3 Essentials game he needed for his collection. I'll link that video in the description. Fantastic video, fantastic collection. Incredible to see someone actually complete something so daunting, because it's not just one country you need to go to in terms of PAL regions. You actually have to collect throughout the whole world. You have to get games from all over Europe, Australia, New Zealand. Here in South Africa, we have one specific one. FIFA 17 is only essential in South Africa. So seeing a collection like that be complete is insane. However, my goal isn't that drastic. Mine is to complete the Classics HD collection on PlayStation 3. Now I know this gets really expensive, and it's usually one or two titles that are more expensive. However, like I said, if I'm going to do the Sly Cooper games, they are also Classics HD. It's all these PS2 games that got these HD remasters for PlayStation 3. And I think that's a fantastic way to play these games. Obviously, there are some, and there's one in particular, the Silent Hill collection, that doesn't run as good. And while that sucks, I think I'm more than happy to take that on the chin and get this collection sorted, because it is a very visually pleasing. I love the silver bar. I don't know why I like this collection so much. It's just something that I've always enjoyed the aesthetic of. So this is the only subset that I will actively try to pursue. I think there's maybe 11 titles, but that's for further down the line. And as long as they can cross over into the Astrobot video, I have no problem doing that as soon as possible. Certain games I'm not going to do quickly, because they are not crossing over with the Astrobot video, and we'll leave that for later collecting journeys down the line. So I hope you understand where I'm coming from with what I want to collect and what I particularly want in my collection. It is a difficult thing to limit yourself, I know, but I think it is necessary in terms of me, because honestly I just find it I struggle a lot to find time to play a lot of my games. So having a very limited amount of games per system just makes it all the more necessary to play the games that you do have. It's just something that I've been thinking about for a very long time, and I know I've hinted at it a couple times on the channel. I've always had this list available, so I've always wanted to chat to you guys about all the things on this list, and now that I've had the chance, I hope that you guys understand, and it kind of fills your curiosity as to what I want to collect for. Also want your guys' advice. What do you guys think about what I've said so far? Do you think I should maybe purge off some of the games that I do have duplicate versions of, and maybe focus on only getting one set of versions? I don't know. It's a difficult choice to make as a collector. Let me know what you've done in your collecting, or if you're just collecting all of them. I know that there's some awesome people in South Africa that have collected all the Silent Hill games, like just every version of every game, which is just insane. Maybe even multiple versions of the same game, as if there's a sealed copy and then an open copy. Incredible things that they have done. But I'm very particular. I want to play the games that I own, so even like getting sealed copies of games, that kind of hurts me. So like Final Fantasy 12 here, I've had this forever, and then I never opened it, and now I'm never going to, but I want to play this game at some point, so I will probably have to get a separate copy of this game, because I'm never going to open the PS2 sealed version, which is just something that has happened unfortunately due to time. I don't want sealed games in my collection. I'll keep a game sealed until I play it, except if it's that old. If it's that old, I'm not touching it. So I'm not a sealed collector. I'm very much a collector that has the ambition of playing the games that are in my collection. I hope you guys understand what I've been saying today, and then you will join me and check out all the other videos on the channel at some point. Make sure that you enjoy your weekend and that you are playing something awesome. I'm hoping to hop into a little bit of Baldur's Gate 3 this weekend and this evening. We never know what happens with life. But other than that, I will check you soon.